All right, guys, this is video 2. We did the TPS. Now we're going to do the MAP, manifold absolute pressure sensor, okay? And we're going to actually talk a little bit about why. I mean, this has 4 wires. We're going to bring up the information. But again, the document about MAP sensors and barometric pressure sensors, how they work, I put them under your week 3 folder in eCentennial. It's there. And we may go, I'm pretty sure we'll go over it in class together because I'm going to do this demo once again with Mohammed and Owen. They will demonstrate it in class on the big screen so we can see it again. So here's the MAP sensor. The difference between the last exercise where they identified the wires themselves, this exercise, again, you're going to get a proper work order. We just filled this out quick like a mock-up. You're going to use Mitchell on demand, and you will need to look up all the wire pin locations for the ECU, the pin and their purposes, okay? And you can also write down their colors. But this time using the wiring diagram. This time is not from just using deductive reasoning and just just process of elimination. You're going to actually use the wiring diagram. To save time, we actually wrote it down already. We did it before, but Owen will still bring you to the wiring diagram itself. Okay. After that, you will use Mitchell on demand, right? Using a vacuum gauge, because remember, to test manifold pressure, when you use just the car, all you could check is idle and key on. You can't actually check anything in between. So the specifications call for 3 stages. It's in kilopascals, but I just translated it to HG, make it easier. So you're going to pump the vacuum gauge from atmospheric down to 15, down to approximately 22 or so, and these are the specs: 4 volts, 1.8 volts, and 0.79 volts. As long as you can bring it close and show me that you can use these tools properly, that'll be good enough, okay? So the first step, Owen, why don't you bring us to the wiring diagram. We're not going to look up all the wires because it's going to take too much time to scroll left, scroll right. So he's typing in, what are you typing in there? MAP sensor. He's typing in MAP sensor. Okay, he's got a search result. Right, click, and we're going to go down and he's going to look for wiring diagrams. Excellent. Once he's there, you will scroll down and find this sensor. Okay, I should expect everybody should know how to use this program already. And from this diagram, you will determine for which wire is which. You know the pin on the connector, which is just 1, 2, 3, 4, obviously. You will write down the corresponding pin on the back of the computer in case you need to do back probing in the real world. Then you're going to write down each purpose, okay? And on the actual module, on the diagram, you'll see, it'll say what each wire is for, okay? Now, he's going to look up the specifications. Can you do that for us? You're going to go back and he's going to type MAP sensor. Now he's going to look at specifications. Perfect. Boom. Right there you should get 0.79, 1.84, and 4, and I'll mention to you that your work orders will have the required gauge pressures and what you should see. You just gotta, well, you're gonna put down these pressure voltages yourself. I want to see that you know how to navigate the specifications. And let's do the measurement. So obviously the sensor is installed, right? Yeah. So I will have tools to remove these, but during the test, for the sake of saving time, they won't be super tight. So Owen, why don't you take the MAP sensor out, Owen? Yeah. Just remove it from the Owen. Okay. Owen. I know. Okay. You can get confused. Mohammed, okay. Owen sounds the same.
I just want to help him.
Yeah, I know you do. It's okay. There you go. Rapid fingers. Let's go. So why he needs to remove it is we are going to access a couple of things. Okay. So sorry, you take it out. My bad. There's 4 wires. We know that we need a reference, a signal out, and a ground. But the 4th wire, if you notice, let's say one of the inputs for your engine, not only engine load, we need engine air temperature, because through temperature and speed density, the vehicle calculates how dense the air is to determine how much fueling and timing you need. So that's precisely what that 4th wire is for, okay? And we've identified that these are the wirings, this is the wiring as follows. Wire 1 is your MAP sensor, which is the pink wire. Number 2 is just the main power feed. Number 3, see, IATS. IATS stands for intake air temperature sensor output, okay? So built into this MAP sensor is a simple air temperature sensor, 2 wire, right? And it shares the sensor ground, again, with the MAP sensor signal, which is pin 4. So you're just gonna be obtaining the MAP signal. So now that it's removed, Owen, what's that tool we're gonna use? We're gonna use the vacuum gauge. And remember, we gotta set the vacuum gauge to vacuum and not pressure, right? See the dials pointed down? There's a switch here that you can move to either pump or to basically draw air, so it's set down. Perfect. And the gauge is very easy to read under inches of vacuum, so we'll just read that black scale on the left where it says 5 to 30, basically, inches of vacuum. Okay? So he's going to, now that the sensor's out, if you notice, this extension here, that's your temperature sample, right? And inside there's a little hole. That's the hole that accesses the piezo-resistive element inside to test air pressure. So go ahead, I'll let go, you do that. You set that up. You take care of the electrical side.
Okay.
Once that's in there, is it in? Excellent. Once that's in, Mohammed, you're gonna go to the meter again. We know that it's a 5-volt reference, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna set it to the same thing, DC40. Everything's underground,
Yeah.
keys on.
Yeah.
You're gonna take that and you're gonna back probe which wire? Pin number 1, which is the pink wire. Make sure you got a nice good contact in there again. All you gotta do is just go right beside the insulation. So let me move his hand and that way you can see. Right there, right? So you just gotta go a little bit beside, right? Don't have to puncture the insulation. You're just going right beside the weather protective gasket there, okay? So do you have a reading? Perfect.
Yeah.
So at atmospheric pressure, you
Almost
should
4.
approximately have 4 volts. And
Yeah.
right now it's atmospheric, we do. So Owen's gonna pump down to approximately, we'll go down to like 14, 15 inches, right? Approximately, a little bit more. Okay, and it says about 1.84 volts is the spec. Yeah, that's good, 1.9, 1.8. I mean, this hose is not 100% sealed perfect. So that's good, that's your second stage. You write it down, right? You write it down, and then, so yeah, 4 is the same, obviously, atmospheric's the same. So then the second stage you had about 1.9, let's say. It's all good, 1.9. And now you're gonna bring it down to about 22 inches of vacuum, 20, 22 or so. Just bring it, like between 20 and 25 is fine. I'm just looking for you guys to know how to use the vacuum gauge and know how to obtain these signals, all right? So bring it down as much as you can, like a little bit more than that. Yeah, that's good, okay? What do we got? Yeah, 0.89 volts, 0.9, that's fine. So you're gonna write it down. Right, that's it. So you got these 3 values. So, I mean, this is just obtaining signals. If you had a drivability issue, you have to be able to do this at the very least to determine what's going on with your car, right? To determine if the sensor is bad and whatnot. We'll learn about how to troubleshoot later. For now, we're just learning how to obtain the measurements. Once I put bugs into these things, let's say if I take out one of the signals or take out the power supply, you will need to follow the wiring diagram and actually troubleshoot and get to the bottom of what is actually wrong with the circuit. And also, we're going to analyze what it does to fueling and analyze what it does to the engine when we have a faulty signal. Oh, look at that too. So as you can see, it's labeled for you, pin 1 through 4 of the actual map sensor. Interesting. But you know, I wouldn't go with that because that's your manufacturer pin. I would go with the diagram pins.
Yeah.
Okay, go with the diagram. Don't go with that because this sensor is using a bunch of different cars. So don't use that as gospel there. So just use the diagram. All right. So I just want to say thanks to these guys here. Decided to stick around and help me out and to make these videos for you. So we'll do this again together. And yeah, thanks for watching.